Welcome to the You're Not Crazy podcast, hosted by Jessica Knight, a certified life coach who specializes in healing from narcissistic and emotional abuse. This podcast is intended to help you identify manipulative and abusive behavior, set boundaries with yourself and others, and heal the relationship with yourself so you can learn to love in a healthy way. You can connect with Jessica and find additional resources, content, and coaching at emotionalabusecoach.com.
Hello, and thank you for being here. Before we dive in, I want to go through the fine print and share how we can work together. Because healing from this kind of pain takes a lot more than time. It takes the right kind of support. I work with people entangling themselves from emotionally abusive relationships, coercive control, trauma bonds, high conflict co-parenting dynamics, high conflict divorce, and if you're at the beginning of the road and wondering what divorce would look like. I offer one-on-one coaching at every stage. If you're still in the relationship, if you're unsure if it's abuse, if you know it's abuse but you're having trouble understanding what that looks like, or what to do with it, I can help you name what's happening, start setting boundaries that work for you, and figure out what you need. If you're thinking about leaving, we'll explore what that might look like in a grounded and personalized way. If you're navigating divorce or custody or co-parenting with a high conflict person, I can help you document, strategize, and stay emotionally anchored, especially when you're being gaslit, discredited, and re-traumatized by the legal system. If you've already left and you're stuck in the trauma bond, or if you've been discarded and struggling to feel like yourself again, I can help you rebuild self-trust and reconnect with your own nervous system in a way that actually feels doable. Everything I do is highly personalized. I don't walk you through a one-size-fits-all program. I listen, I reflect, and I guide you based on what you're facing right now. And some people work with me through a one-time validation call, which is offered on my website, where we zero in on one issue you're struggling with and start to untangle it together. Others work with me on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on what's going on in your specific situation. And this is especially helpful when healing from emotional abuse and also in divorce. If you're curious about starting, I offer a $25 intro call, which if you listen to my older episodes, I call it a clarity call. It did used to be free, and I talk about it at a later episode, but really a lot of people were no-showing to those calls, and that was taking away time from clients that I do work one-on-one with. And so if we move forward, I just take that fee and apply it to your first session. That intro call is just for us to get on the same page so you can share what's going on for you and I can share how I might be able to help. I only take a limited number of those calls per month because one-on-one coaching is the core of my work. Out of all these offerings that I have, one-on-one coaching is the thing that I do the most, and I do it 6 days a week most of the time, 5 to 6 days a week. And so if my calendar looks full and if there's not a time that you can get in, you can email me at jessicaknightcoaching.com, and I always try and make space where I can. And I may also always have a few openings from one-on-one client reschedules. You can also explore self-paced courses and toolkits at jessicaknight.thinkific.com, including Divorcing a Narcissist 101 and the Emotional Abuse Breakthrough course. I have a documentation course and my new signature program, Unhooked, which is a private podcast and course that walks you through the full cycle of abuse, helps you map it in your relationship and how to break it and how to begin to see what it really is that you're going through. If you want ongoing support in a more flexible way, you could always check out my Substack at jessicaknight.substack.com. Each month I focus on a different theme, from trauma bonding to divorce to cluster B to sexual coercion to emotional abuse to toxic breakups. Those are just some from this year. Paid members get access to monthly deep dives, master classes, Q&As, strategy kits, and I'm working on some more group options. There is also a free option and a monthly option. So please head over to Substack. The link is in my show notes. You also can just search Jessica Knight Coaching and I'll come up. Everything that I create is meant to help. My coaching, my writing, my courses, this podcast, it's built around the one truth that you're not crazy. You are conditioned to doubt your reality, and I want to help you change that and understand what you're going through. If you like this podcast, the best thing that you can do is subscribe and rate the episode 5 stars. You can find me on my websites, emotionalabusecoach.com and high-conflict divorcecoaching.com. All of the offerings that I just mentioned are also in the show notes below. Now let's get to the episode. Hello, and thank you for being here. This episode is a Patreon-only episode, and I'm going to go through some of the biggest questions that I get asked. And these are all questions that have come up this week. I've sort of been keeping an ongoing list of ones that are coming up because when somebody asks them, I know they're not the only person thinking it. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, she doesn't sound normal, I am fighting a cold, so I apologize. But I wanted to record this. So I'm going to go through these 5 questions. I'm going to go one by one, and they're all listed in the show notes, so I'm sure you saw them. But how do I stop second guessing myself after leaving an abusive relationship? And this feels like one of the 5 gigantic knots that we're forced to untangle. Second guessing is not a flaw. It sort of just shows what you went through. Abusers train you to distrust your perceptions because a disoriented partner is easier to control. Somebody that's confused is easier to control. It's not overthinking. It's not a conditioned survival response. So the work isn't to be more confident. It's to deprogram the doubt that they instilled in you. And this is the reality check that I often try and help people get to, not always in that space, but your self-doubt kept you safer while you were with them. It helped you scan for danger, predict their behaviors, appease them. But now that's outdated. It's outdated software. And so we have to uninstall it by replacing their voice with your own. And a lot of times what can be helpful is going through a bit of a fact pattern. What situation? What did you notice? What actually happened when the doubt comes in? Because then you can go back to that reality checklist and look at what's going on, because that will begin to kill gaslighting, because it was a way of ungaslighting yourself. And you also can create a list and call it like your own personal no debate list, where you have 5 to 10 facts about the relationship that are not up for negotiation. Like, they screamed at me for crying. That's a fact. They read my texts. I feel afraid. When your brain starts to go in a cycle, you could pull it back to the facts that are actually there. And if you're feeling, what if I'm overreacting, or what if I'm right? You can repeat the one that's empowering, which is, what if I'm right? What if I'm right about all of this? Until your nervous system understands that your perception is what's leading the show right now. It's very hard. And it does take some work to begin to really work through them. Another one that comes up so often is, why do I still miss my abuser even though I know they hurt me? And that's because you're human. It's because they created a cycle of abuse, tension, blow up, crumbs of affection, and temporary relief. You don't miss the harm. You miss the relief after the harm. And that's withdrawal. That's what withdrawal feels like. Missing them doesn't mean you made the mistake of leaving. It means that the poison didn't taste like poison, essentially. And when that I miss you wave hits, you can tell yourself, this is withdrawal. It's not a sign to return. It's a craving. It's uncomfortable. I want the relief. I feel like I'm dying, but it could help to pull you out of it, because neurologically, you're still missing the dopamine spike tied to the unpredictability and the reunions. And so it's a classic trauma bond conditioning. And so you have to treat it like you're managing a craving, like you would manage an addiction. You miss them even though they hurt you, because you are used to them, as your body has been associated with them for a really long time. Another question is, how can I tell the difference between a trauma bond and real love? Real love is safe. Sometimes it can feel boring in the best way. It's predictable. consistent. The trauma bond feels more like adrenaline. It's like being confused all the time. It's not knowing if it's a mask or what's real. And if you have to self-erase to keep the peace, that is not love. And so when I was thinking about this question, I made two lists that I think might be helpful. Trauma bonds tend to look like this: intensity over consistency, so roller coasters that the abuser probably labels as passion. You start to bargain with yourself. If I just do X, they won't explode. Your world shrinks a lot, isolation, but they expand. Your world will shrink, but theirs will expand. You feel relief when they're nice, not happiness when you're yourself, and you manage their feelings more than your own safety. So if you're fawning, managing them over yourself, it's most likely a trauma bond. And love, safe love, tends to look like predictability. You can make a plan during a week without bracing. Your no is respected without punishment, maybe met with curiosity at times, but not punishment. Ruptures are repaired, not excused. You get bigger inside the relationship, so you can become more of you, not less. And your relationship is able to survive honesty. You don't need to be somebody who you are not to be in the relationship. If some of these feel like if you're like, oh my God, I feel so activated by this, the course I have, the Emotional Abuse Breakthrough course, might be a good fit for you to go and to get some clarity on how you're feeling and where to go from where you are. Another question was, what are some ways to regulate my nervous system when I'm triggered? And so when you're triggered, you're not traumatic, your body is remembering. And so you might aim for fast relief first, not the deeper rewiring, which is normal. So your nervous system is triggered because of the cycle. And so if you could do something called box breathing, I recommend you just YouTube it. But it's basically inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4, doing that 4 rounds. That could be super helpful. You could do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. Name 5 things you see, 4 you touch, 3 you hear, 2 that you smell, 1 that you taste. You could say it out loud because that helps too. And then when you feel like, okay, I got that one down, you could do some movement. I think walking can help. Leave your phone at home, go for a walk until you feel better again. If it's all you can do and all you have time for is one lap around the block, do it anyway. Cold rinse or splash your head with water, like almost like a shock to the system. And then orienting. So you can scan the room with your eyes, your head, noticing corners, light sources, tell your body we're here. You can say the date, remind yourself that you're safe, right now. But looking at some of the ways that it begins to bring you back down, grounded. EDMR therapy can also be really helpful for this. And now the last question that I have today is, this is a big one, but what do I do when I feel guilty for setting boundaries? And so guilt after boundaries is like our trained alarm system that goes off. It's not the truth of what's going on, but it's our trained alarm system. So we set off the fire alarm, but there's no fire, just smoke coming out of our mac and cheese. Your abuser punished your limits. So your body learns safety is compliance. So we need to begin to retrain that by letting the guilt ring while you keep the boundary. And when you feel that feeling will lag behind the behavior, and you probably will feel guilty for a while, but you can begin to hold it, and you could do micro boundaries. So you can take 24 hours before saying yes to something. You can decline a small request. You can end a call when interrupting starts. Sometimes people also want to give themselves a try to see what this looks like, or see what it feels like, or see what happens, like something safe. And so, but I have an example of like a small boundary, and this is something that happened from one of my clients. We call it kind of like a boundary test. And if you have been here or been following me, I have a boundary deep dive course that helps you really think about and reframe boundaries with an abuser. So boundary test is you state a boundary that slightly frustrates them, such as, I won't discuss this by text after 9, meaning like, I'll respond to you tomorrow, but I'm taking the night to think about it. Like we can't go back and forth forever. and then see what happens, right? Because if they push, guilt, retaliate, that is showing how they respond. They are escalating. So you can begin to predict of what will happen and then, of course, align around it. But if this is a healthy, safe relationship, or if that it is possibility to be safe, they might adjust to that boundary. Okay, I understand. I'll look forward to hearing from you in the morning. It's not a big ask. Something that might help you is reducing some boundary ambiguity so that your brain doesn't spin in a cycle. And there's a few ways you can think about it. And I have actually never talked about these before out in the world, but you could have a template. So I don't blank. So say I don't yell, or I don't I will not allow myself to be yelled at. And if it happens, I will blank. So if it happens, I will leave the room. Example, I don't discuss finances while you're yelling. If it happens, I will walk out of the room and we can talk about this tomorrow. That probably is going to lead to an escalation. So it could be, I will talk to you if you stop yelling at me. I prefer to talk about this later. But if somebody keeps escalating, it shows you exactly where their head is. Then there's the enforcement ladder. So there's first an infraction, they get a reminder. Hey, I asked you not to yell at me, please stop. Second, consequence. If you continue to yell at me, like I am leaving the room, you've yelled at me again, I'm leaving the room. Third, bigger consequence. If you continue to yell at me and you don't give me space, I'm leaving the house for the night and I will be back tomorrow. But the problem and the solution is that you have to actually execute them. And so consistency takes away pushback over time, not at first, but over time, but it will work better than explanations. And so before you deliver a boundary, you also can write out 3 guilt-tripping lines that you might hear from them. They might say, you're selfish, you're rude, you changed, but family comes first. And just write your 1-sentence responses. Like, I'm allowed to change. I love my family and I'm not available for this. I won't discuss this further today. So that way, when guilt hits, you're not improvising on the spot. You actually have a solution. And so with all of these, like your brain and body are doing exactly what they were trained to do in an unsafe system. You're not broken. It is deprogramming. Obviously, we need to take safety into consideration. So stalking threats, escalation, trust your instinct and make a safety plan always. Loop in a coach, an advocate, a therapist if you feel like you need, so you have somebody there for you. And just remember that you can out-train the patterns with small, repeatable actions. And like if there's a tool that works for you and maybe these tools don't work for you, but it puts you on a path to find other tools, don't doubt that. Just really listen to yourself. I hope that this was helpful for you. And there is a Q&A form. I will put it in the show notes. But if you ever want to ask me a question, you totally can. And all the paid subscribers can ask questions and I will answer them on future versions of these. So please feel free. If you are kind of like sitting around and thinking about it, like I'd always be happy to help. Okay. All right. I really hope that this was helpful.